Today we're going to review the best field combos to level up and play with in Season 2 Plus of Call of Dragons. And I have been super impressed with some of the results I've been getting, especially with Goresh and Skogul and some merit farming. So stick around in this video for the pairs that I think are going to crush it in Season 2 Plus. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Call of Dragons. And when a new season starts, one of the first things you have to figure out is, which combinations of heroes should I level up first? And in my perspective, you really want to have a leveled combo for every troop type that's in your city so that you can take advantage of all of these different troops at your disposal. But then, once you get later into the season, you can narrow down or focus in on specific lineups, like a mostly ranged lineup or a flying cavalry lineup, which I'll talk about something that I'm going to be doing at some point in this season. So use the timestamps in the description of this video to navigate to whichever portion you're most interested in. The main sort of vehicle we're going to use for this video is actually the multi-create screen. I feel like this is the easiest way to visualize all the combos we're going to be crafting here together. So if you buy into my advice that you ought to have an infantry, a marksman, a cavalry, and a mage combo, and then double up on something, what should this ultimately look like for most people? And if you are a whale, I think that double up should be on marksman. If you are a free-to-play or low spender, I think that double up should be on mages. My 2 cents. So we'll start all the way on the right here, and let's start with infantry. And I think it's kind of obvious to start with infantry for this season because Skogul and Goresh together, I think, are just going to be insane. I mean, I am actually trading positive against Lily Velen, okay? And they've got Infernal Flame. I'm using Dragon Scale Armor. I don't even have the Spirit Bone Torque yet. I have a Venomous Lizard with the skills that came with it. This is not even the final form Venomous Lizard I'm going to use. I'm waiting until I get an actual 1-star talent to invest in one. What I'm trying to say is that this combo is going to slap. It's going to be insane. It is so powerful. It's exactly, I think, what infantry needed. Now look, we'll see how I feel once I'm getting 20x surrounded, but I am very hyped for this combo over all prior infantry, which is a bit of a bummer because, what do you do if you have Madeline? And what do you do if you're not going for Goresh? Well, if you're going to be going for these two, you pair them together like this. If you are not going for Goresh and you are going for Skogul, then in that case, your infantry combo is going to be Madeline with Skogul. You're going to use the Dragon Scale Armor, ideally. Okay, your backup for the Dragon Scale Armor is going to be, if you had it, a Greymar's Warhammer, or you could alternatively use the Fang of Ashkari. Great choice. And like I said, your backup here is either going to be Skogul if you're going for her, or it's going to be Nika, or even preferably, I would say, Garwood. And this is kind of weird. Nika just fell off a freaking cliff. In Season 2, it's all about your infantry in these really tight choke points getting 20x surrounded. And in that situation, you don't really want bonus skill damage. Nika's just not doing enough for you. All you need to do is just live a little bit longer before you die with a not so impressive merit trade. So Madeline Garwood, I think, is probably better than going with Nika. So again, I think those top 3 combos are Goresh with Skogul, followed by Madeline with Skogul, followed by Madeline with Garwood, followed by Madeline with Nika. All right, so let's lock in that combo that I'm going to be using for this season. Again, the Spirit Bone Torque is what I'm going to be using instead of the Dragon Scale Armor. And we've got one of our combos sorted out. Our infantry is locked in. Now, with regard to cavalry, hey, look, I feel like you should level up some calves. That does seem important to me. So what I'm doing is I'm using Bakshi as the primary to level because he has peacekeeping, and that's giving me bonus experience and rewards. And I'm pairing with Ferondil. Of course, when I'm actually going to fight with them, we're going to flip around their order. All right. So Ferrondo will be the primary. Bakshi will be the secondary in this configuration. I have the Goldenrok selected here, but although that's a fine choice when you're using Bakshi, I think that you're far better off with the Berserk Phaedrake. Here is my old Berserk Phaedrake that is a 0-star talent skill I'm working on, but haven't yet deployed skills onto. My 1-star talent skill, Berserk Phaedrake. Berserk Phaedrake is the way to go. And, you know, with Ferrondo, it's just so good. It's so good. You inflict debuffs, you clear them off. And the thing is that I'm not actually going to run around in the field all that much with this combo. Like, I might go fight at a statue with this combo, but I'm generally not using them together, which is a little bit weird. I think it's important to have leveled cavalry. If you wanted to really start to work on your flyers right from the start of the season, you could ditch the Bakshi and go with instead a Thea. This is a much more versatile level up plan that in some ways I wish I did. In other ways, I'm very happy with, you know, Bakshi. I mean, I have him awakened. He is kind of a beast. But the combo here is really good because then if you use flying cavalry, you can split these two off. The other advantage of leveling up a Thea is that, hey, you can take Thea and make her really in like any combo a viable part of that combo. So she is a much more versatile early season level up. So if you have spent, I think that Ferrondo with Bakshi is the way to go. If you have not been spending, then I think Bakshi Emrys is like the way to go. Easy choice there. Emrys is really strong as well. And in that case, you would use the Goldenrok. Let's actually switch this out. Even though I've got this, configured for leveling up right now, let's just do this little switch so you can see the full picture in its completeness. Cavalry are locked in. Feeling pretty good about that. Now let's talk about mages. I am only going to be using one mage combo. That combo is going to be Lily Velen. And I'm not actually going to use an Ice Lizard. I'm just leveling up that Ice Lizard right now. Instead of the Ice Lizard, I think the Sapphire Phaedrake is the obvious way to go. And this combo is really good. I mean, it does a lot of damage. A lot of damage. This is the one mage combo I'm going to bring. Now, right now, I have Peacekeeping Talents on my Lilia. I have tried using Velen as the primary, and it's just not good. Like, the talents are not good in the control tree if you are a spender. If you are a free-to-play player or low spender, I actually think those talents can work really well for you. But as a sort of pay-to-win player, no. I mean, you definitely use the Lilia as the primary, and even if you're not pay to win, like Lilia primary is going to eke out more damage than the Velen primary. I've really covered this extensively in other videos, how the control tree with debuff effects are super powerful as a lower spender into the game, so I won't revisit that here. I'm simply going to lock in this combo and say, boom, there's the mage combo we go for. From here, we have two marksman combos that I want to run, and they're going to be, I think, pretty obvious, although one of them is kind of debated. Up first is the Sindrian Freygar, and Sindrian Freygar is insane. I mentioned that I hadn't worked on it, but that I was going to, and then someone tried to clown me, calling me a hypocrite. Look, I have him maxed, and I'm getting first place in all the behemoth raids. Like, I don't know what you want to know. Okay, not all of them, but like pretty darn close, like top 3 pretty much all the time. So like Sindrian Freygar absolutely freaking decimates. And I still don't have, in fact, I only just got a proper rock to use with this combo. I was using the Sand Lizard. I need to now work on a Night Rock. I just got a 1-star talent skill. I spent like 140 regeneration potions and I landed on this set of attributes, which is actually really, really good. So I'm going to be working on my Night Rock, but even without a Night Rock, even using a Sand Lizard, which is super suboptimal for doing behemoth raids, I'm getting top ranks pretty consistently, and the Gold Crest is the way to go on this combo. I actually am not a fan of the Gold Crest. The targeting mechanisms for it are very, 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 very clunky, I find. I really wish these would get evaluated and in my opinion changed, because if you target something just out of range, you'll get an error message you might not even see in a big battle that tells you it was out of range. Then you try to do something else. Oops, you've left combat because your target might have walked away from you. Now you lost rage because you were out of combat without realizing it, and then you can't use this anymore, so you got to go hit something. It's just like the most clunky artifact I've used, and the only times where it's not clunky, like, how did you get into a situation where the enemy is already on top of you? It's not a good situation. So you're either too close to the enemy and it's easy to use, or you're playing at max range, which is what you should be doing, but you're going to try to target stuff that might be just out of your range and get wrecked. So if you wanted something that's more consistent and reliable, I would actually stick with the free-to-play options, or, I mean, there is a pay-to-win option that's pretty decent. The free-to-play options would include the Shadow Blades as just like a really easy, simple choice. The alternative would be a Viola's Bow if you've gotten just extraordinarily lucky to pull one of those, or if you have spent for it, that would be a really solid choice. The Rattle Spear is not really for this combo. Rattle Spear goes on your Nika, or not Nika, your Nico. They are brother-sister, by the way. Or it goes on your Kanara, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So Sindri and Freygar are amazing. The Night Rock is obviously made for this combo. We're going to actually make that swap out just to show you that that's what I think you should be doing. And we'll lock that in. All right. So from here, the final hero pairing. I have found Nico and Kanara to be insane. And yes, a Snow Peak Rock is the way to go. I am leveling this particular Snow Peak Rock, but I have a really good one I can show you. Here it is, right? Like this is actually, I wouldn't call it really good. It's pretty decent. The attribute rolls are good. The skills are fine. There's probably some better stuff you could do with that. But without looking too much into the skills, because this is not a pet video, Nico and Kanara is absolutely slaying. Look, I have people keep saying that like they love their Hosk Kanara combo. And I am finding that, at least in the 1v1 duels, Nico Kanara, I am slapping that combo. I am destroying that combo. Now, I would be open to believing that there is a combination of the pet plus the, artifact plus the talents that maybe the folks I've been dueling aren't using. But, like, I don't know, man. If you have an awakened Nico, you use it. If you don't have an awakened Nico, then I would consider Hosk Kanara, and I would still use the Rattle Spear. That's I think the way I would break it down. I mean, Nico, once awakened, does 200 damage factor. I mean, 80% chance of 200 damage factor on a target that has defense break. And Nico applies defense break. Kanara, when awakened, applies defense break. It is a sick combo. And you can even flip it around to use the Kanara as the primary, and then her talents have a way to apply defense break. And I'm actually considering testing that out because, look, like, I would prefer to use Nico as the primary. I want to hit him with, the defense break and then hit him with Kanara's active. But there's a chance that just applying more defense breaks is going to be better. And Kanara has a talent in the control tree that gives her the ability to apply yet another defense break, which, by the way, triggers the Snow Peak Rock, triggers the Rattle Spear. Yeah, I'm probably going to test this out like this, but for now, I'm running it this way, and it's just been absolutely crushing. So I am, in discussing this now, we'll call it 80% sure running it the other way is better, but this is what I've been doing, all right? And I've been very happy with this. This is, I think, the way you start out your season if you run 2 marksmen. Now, if you are not running 2 marksmen, what do you do? Well, if you're running 2 mage combos, there's a couple ways to sort of split this up. One is that you use Lilia, and I think you go with Hosk. You could alternatively, look to other heroes like Thea as an alternative. All right. And I think the Sapphire Phaedrake over here is a fine choice. And then you would use Velen and Waldir together. And I think you might eke out more damage with the Waldir as the primary, but you are going to get targeted a lot for using an Epic as the primary. And the Phoenix Eye is an amazing artifact. Really would recommend that very highly. If you weren't using the Phoenix Eye, right, and mine is only, what is this? I think it's like 1 skill onto it. There are alternatives. I just don't love them. The better choice actually should use Breath of Gigantus. There you go. If you had that. Most people probably don't, and so they're looking at something like maybe a Tear of Arbon as their next best choice. But if you're running 2 mages, I think this would be the way that you run that. And if you're looking for more of like a free-to-play option over here for your marksman, like you don't have Kanara, you have Nico, but you're wondering what to do, at that point, you're almost certainly looking at Gwanwyn as the pick. Right over here. All right. So this would be, I think, a more free-to-play-ish lineup. In fact, at this point, I may as well just make the whole dang thing in a more free-to-play-ish way. I mean, I'm going to put Madeline. I suppose if you didn't have Madeline, right, you use like Garwood and Nika together, right? But you could do something like this. You might not have the Dragon Scale armor. And then, as I mentioned, you would switch these guys around. You would use Emmy, who is over here, instead of using the Breath of the Forest, which is really good for defending your city. You're probably using a Kingslayer or a Sorlin's Blade, and you do it something like this, right? So there is a much more free-to-play friendly lineup. Like I said, you just swap out the Madeline, and instead you'd use... instead of Bear, right, you'd use Garwood. I mean, geez, like we could do this. We go all the way, all right? Put in the Stripe Bear, and then we put in the Nika, and we got there, all right? A free-to-play lineup. Although this artifact, I would much rather go for this guy, all right? So we did it. I am going to be spending a bunch of time rearranging all of this once I go to actually level up and battle some Darklings again this season, but whatever, not a big deal. So this brings us to the sort of final considerations, which is, what about some special teams? And like, this is totally up to you, all right? It's 100% up to you how you specialize your account. If you use flyers, right, like at some point you want to level up Atheist. So maybe instead of a Hosk, right? I have my free-to-play lineup with Hosk. What am I doing? You're either using Thea or you're using Atheist, right? Depending on where you're at. There we go. We actually achieved a free-to-play friendly lineup here. For me personally, here is what my flying squad is going to be. And I did this last season. It was so good. I would love to find a way to get another flying combo into here, but I don't know how to do that with flying cavalry. I used Ferondil with Freygar, and I used Thea with Craig. And the reason I paired Thea and Craig together is that I was trying to march speed balance these. This is also why the Kingslayer is on the... no, not the Kingslayer. The Sorlin's Blade is on the right here. It's got some march speed, which is kind of nice. But you could swap that out for a Kingslayer. It all depends on like the talents that you ultimately choose as well. But I wanted Thea to boost my skill damage and then have Craig just hit a bunch of stuff with big skill damage. That's kind of why the combo is that way. And I felt like the talents were best suited on Ferondil and also on Thea for being the primaries. I don't think you really want the mobility tree, even though it sounds like the thing you're trying to do. I don't think it is. You want nice damage. So that's the combo I would run for smashing backline disruption and folks that are walking places and catching them off guard. Which, look, it's war game. You can say, oh, it's dishonorable to attack someone walking to their destination, or you could win. Your call. Attacking the backline and doing disruption is just a part of the game, y'all. So I'm going to go in and have to reconfigure all these. And I totally should have saved my lineup before I had backed out of all that. But if you found this video helpful, throw a like on here, consider subscribing. I think that there are, of course, other heroes that, if you've been investing in them, you should work on them. Like, for example, I've seen Theodore be a total monster. So, yeah, you could work on Theodore. He's someone I'll probably work on at some point in this season, but he's not my priority. My priority, as I mentioned at the start, is getting a march of each troop type up and running. And for me, marksmen are hitting so hard that I'm going to go for 2 of those. For most people, it's probably 2 mages. And by the way, good news. Next season, mages are confirmed. That was announced, by the way, in a meetup in Cologne, Germany that I attended. Card will be in the end screen in just a second. If you haven't seen that rundown of everything they talked about in the Q&A and the Germany meetup for Call of Dragons, you are going to want to check that out. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.